So in this video, I'm going to show you an AI-powered interactive resource that I built using Claude in the artefact. And it's designed to help out my students who are studying music technology and to help them calculate echo times based around BPM. That was the whole idea behind this. In the past, what I probably would have done is given them like a really bland worksheet, but as you can see with this, it's much more interactive, it's much more colorful, and that's what I was trying to go for. So in the first instance, I do want to draw your attention to this prompt, which is a very, very basic prompt. One thing I want to mention is about the gamification of this. I also want to mention about how this is a one-shot prompt. I think that there is a huge possibility for teachers to be really diving into like interactive resources that are going to be based around a one-shot or a game that you could apply. I'm not trying to justify at all where our students are in this modern age, but obviously with mobile technology and social media, they are accustomed to the gamification of information. So as I mentioned earlier about this one shot, what I also did is after it created the first version of this, I then went through this and just suggested a little bit more stuff to sort of guide it along. I was asking about challenges, about the panels, about gamifying this. But again, in this one shot, it did create something that actually worked. I think another aspect about this that educators are sort of new to is this idea that you don't need to have any background within coding or app building. None of that is required, which again, in this age of AI is just absolutely astonishing. So I want to mention this as well. I read about somebody who was going through prompting, and basically because the AI can't really understand or has no idea about what it's making, you have to sort of guide it along, and simply by saying, yes, keep going, and that's as far as I want you to go, or no, don't go down that path, you can get some really good results. So after going back and forth with this and sort of playing around with different ideas, it finally came up with an app that I was happy with. So this is the application that I then published, and I gave this to my students in OneNote. Now, as you can see up on the very top, you have 4 different panels, and I'm going to go through each one of these. So learning mode, basically what this does is that it gives the student a visual and an interactive breakdown of how echo based around BPM works. So what you've got here is your BPM counter. You've got a playhead that is based around your 120 BPM. If you push this playhead here, you'll notice that these LED lights will then light up. If I wanted to, I could push this mute button and I can now hear it. This is a more of a visual. I've got to say that this is where Claude didn't really do well. I didn't really see any point to this at all, although it does change with the BPM, so there maybe could be some argument to say that a student could use this to their advantage. Personally, I find this to be a little bit too minimal for any sort of education purposes. So the visual on this echo time, it'll give you these note divisions. And one thing about the exam board is that they are going to be asking you about different note divisions on this. So notice how that based around this BPM, that it'll calculate this in milliseconds. What I also like about this is it's got the formula down here. This is quite important because my students do need to understand about the basic formula and how this will be applied to a test question. Visual representation, I'm sort of halfway on this only because I've got some students who might see this blinking up and down and might be a bit confused by that. But again, if I wanted to, I can give this to a student and they could customize it to their own liking. So now let's move into challenge mode. And basically that students were asked to calculate a delay time based in milliseconds on a certain BPM. So what I like about this is obviously the differentiation here that you have easy, normal, and hard. This harks back to Bloom's taxonomy for applying and analyzing. So to keep motivation up, Claude added a very simple but effective achievement system. Students will unlock badges. I think that the students that I have given this to have really enjoyed this because it sort of gives them that immediate feedback. So let me just dive a little bit into this calculating this echo time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in the wrong answer and I'll just check it. Notice how that it'll give you the answer. It'll also give you the reason why. If you click on this help, it'll just break this down for you. So let me just go into one of the easier ones. Okay, so on this easier one, it's now giving me, hopefully this is going to be an all right one for my students to answer. I'm going to type in the answer here, just to give you a breakdown of how this could work. And let me just check it. So again, that you can see up here that this thing bounces up and down. This is now highlighted, and my students got a real kick out of this. So why does this work? It's like a micro rewards reinforcement, low stakes engagement, and it's also just these visuals that my students really got into. So the playground mode is the third one, and I've got to say that I'm not too excited about this. I think that this is going to link back into real world applications of this. I can see that Claude is trying to get into a really good examples of how to use this on different instruments, for example. But I just don't see what the purpose of this was. If I had more time, or if I wanted to dive into this further, I would probably argue to you that I could probably mess around with this even further. What I do like about it though is that it does give examples. So if a student was into a certain genre or type of music, that this may help them out deal with real world examples. So the final panel is about delay time. And I like this one a lot. It gives definitions, formula, practical examples, it gives common production settings, color quota for quick references. So a lot of the students said that this was practical for coursework or for practical sessions that we've done. You can reuse this across different units for mixing or effects. But again, it sort of goes back into this purpose of this, that they must understand what this is. So just reflecting back on how my students use this, several things popped up. Interactivity is the main one, scaffolding challenges, visual learning, built-in feedback. And what really shocks me is this was all based around one very simple prompt.